CEO and founder of the Online Authors Office. And today I am here with one of our master elite authors, Cheryl Moy, who has written 2 books, Becoming Mei Rose, The Origami Balloon, and her workbook, The Love Thyself. So here are 2 books, and we are here today to talk to her about her journey. Hi, Cheryl. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hi, Pash. How you doing?
It's good to see you at the desk at the OAO. One more time, here we are.
Yes, yes. You make it
So,
easy for you and your team. So yeah.
yeah, thank you. So if we can, let's just get right into the questions so that your audience is here to listen and we can really hone in on the messages. So our first question always to our authors is, what or who inspired you to write The Origami Balloon, Becoming Mei Rose?
The story is about my personal journey and growing up here in America as being um, come from Asian culture and growing up here and facing the Western culture.
Wow. So basically, your paradigm of living as an Asian woman in a Western society was the impetus for your inspiration.
Right. It's one of the impetus of inspiration of writing it. It's also coming of age story. Sure.
Wonderful.
Oh.
Um, and what is your biggest inspiration in writing this book? I know it's about culture and it's about, moving from one, part like the East to the West or the West to the East. But what is the biggest one, the biggest inspiration? Was it something that happened to you in your childhood or something that you saw happening to your culture that you felt that you needed to write this book?
I think it's more on the culture, especially with the pre-pandemic. There was a lot of anti-hate and a lot of anti-bullying.
Mhm.
It's really prevalent that people understand the culture a little bit more and not just discriminating against people.
Yeah. So when you say anti-hate and anti-bullying, is this the people that are against these parties? So what you're trying to promote is the something in terms of not bullying. So you want to move away from bullying and teach people about the themes of anti-bullying.
Right. It's the theme is to be to be aware of anti-bullying and error level, whether you're whatever ethnicity you are, whatever belief you are, because without there's a lot of hatred going on, a lot of misconstrued. I want to disrupt the behavior.
Wonderful. And in your book, who is your target audience? Who are you writing this for?
I'm writing it for young adult, like teenagers, because they get into preteen agers into younger adulthood, and everybody going through this to self-discovery about oneself. This book.
So the young adults, can you tell me, which age group are you talking about? Teenagers as in 13 to 18 or 16 to 18? How young can we be to read your book?
As far as I know, I think the earliest to understand when your body changes and then you understand the awareness what you grow up, I think is more um, better for everybody to understand and embrace it for oneself.
Yep, at a younger age. I think kids are learning things
Much
faster.
faster there. Yes.
Yeah.
Some people who used to age 9 and they were learning picking up stuff before I was growing up. So yeah.
It's a huge gap between how we grew up and how kids are growing up now, and the
Right. Especially
information,
with the internet.
yeah,
Yes.
the knowledge that they have accessible to them, that they can find out anything that they really want to at the end of the day. So that's
Right.
wonderful that you're really honing in on a market that is young enough to understand these themes
Right.
of loving
Right.
oneself. Um,
Right.
and your workbook is wonderful. I mean, I love it. I've actually started a few practices for myself. So thank you for writing this. This has
Yeah.
really helped me as well, even though I'm not actually in your category of young adult. But I think this workbook helps all across the board, like you were saying.
Right.
And for me personally, I know what your book means to me. But for you, what kind of message is Love Thyself, the workbook, promoting?
It's more to rediscover who you are and what are your uniqueness and learning to embrace it and discover whatever changes you're going through, that you accept it and not the outside noise or whatever people said about you to absorb into your body. You want to hone in the light, the inner light of yourself, and share the love of others, you know, once
That's
you figure that
beautiful.
out.
I love that you use the word rediscovery rather than discovery.
Right.
Because I mean, it's not to say that we've lost ourselves. So can you explain more to us about this rediscovery? What does this actually mean to you as the author?
I think for me is really interesting because each stage is you change, right? It's like a season. You discover new things about yourself that you don't know about, that you embrace it more. So you kind of shed yourself that you don't want anymore and you're trying to morph into a butterfly. That's what I basically what I like about it. And whatever stage it's like a season, it changes, and you had to embrace it.
That's amazing. I just did an interview the other day with another author who talks about metamorphosis and the butterfly. And I feel like this is the actual feeling that society is going through right now, that we're trying to rediscover who we are because we've been so damaged during the pandemic.
Yes, been very isolated. I think that's the key word. When you feel isolated, you don't have that interaction with people, and then you hear a lot of negativities, then it would definitely harm itself once more. So it's kind of like protecting layers
Yeah.
and then shed all that negative feedback.
Yep, I think that's what it is. It's like when we're forced to be on lockdown or forced to be in situations that we didn't understand before the pandemic. You do put on layers and layers of like protection, and to go out there again into the world, into the universe, you do have to rediscover who you are. And that's what I found as one of your readers, especially with Love Like Thyself, that I'm able to be honest with myself with what are the layers that I need to take away in order to rediscover myself.
Yeah, I'm glad that you understand that because I'm doing that myself. You know, really, I am doing this myself, and that's the reason why this the storybook really relate to it a little bit more, and then the workbook tied into the story to help you discover each journey as an author.
It's
For especially Mei Rose, right? She learned how to, hold it.
it's it's
Okay.
It's a beautiful story. I mean, what the transitions and transformations that she goes through, it's really a coming of age story, really shows us that, never give up, that it's just a progression and we all go through it. So it's something
Yeah.
that we do need to work through. Which brings me to my next question is, you want to coach young adults through your workbook. And what are the two of your favorite lessons that you'd like to tell us? And why are they your
Um,
favorite lessons?
I appreciate it. The two favorite lessons I'm learning. I love is I am broken, and then I'm brave.
And these two
And
lessons can be found in your book, the chapters I Am Broken and I Am Brave.
right, those are
And
the two.
tell
Yes,
us why.
those. Huh?
Why do you love those? Why do you love those two?
Because the reason I love the I am broken is very simple. You discover you're not going to take this anymore. This is not worth it anymore. You absorb all this negative energy, you're shoving, and you know there's better things than life, right? And you're almost so depressed to the point where you need to lift yourself up. And the other character is I'm brave, no matter what you're going through, being brave and being consistent and facing each obstacle, each hurdle. It's kind of like you doing, like I talk about the butterfly theme. It's almost similar to that, but I use it more like a balloon. So
Mhm.
each goal that she have in her life, she's learning how to love herself in the heart, and that's what I'm. That's why it's so different between I'm broken and I'm brave. Kind of like the yin and the yang. The broken part is more like the darkness, and
Mhm.
she's slowly coming to the light part of her book, and that's what everybody should become. That's what I like about those two.
There's
During,
one beautiful
yeah.
drawing of the balloon that you're talking about. I think it's on the last chapter of your book where the
Right.
balloon actually opens up and you see
Mm-hmm.
all of the images of her life, like right before her, opened up into this balloon. And I just want to show your audience like
Sure.
this picture here. Uh,
Yes.
where
Yes.
it is Mei Rose, and it's all parts of herself, where the balloon opens up like a metamorphosis, like the butterfly. So yeah,
Right.
I mean, I love how you explain it's like moving from the darkness to the lightness. That's
Right.
wonderful.
Yeah. I like that. That's the theme of the book is to learn, and I think is thank you. Yeah.
It's wonderful. I mean, I feel your presence when I'm doing the workbook. I feel your understanding of this yin and yang and the darkness and the lightness because of the way that you're leading us through the path of again this notion of self-discovery or reigniting who we are and really loving the core of who we are. I think that's the main message of what you're trying to say for all the lessons, like, don't forget who you are.
Right. And accept who you are. Does it make sense? If you don't like that part of yourself, you realize that you don't want to talk about negative. I mean, we all do, but what else to be kind of a little bit of opposite for it, right? What do you accept and how do you change it? So slowly bringing it instead of a dark coal, you want to bring it into more like a fire. You know how coal light into fire. So
Yeah,
slowly, slowly. It's kind of similar to that theme. What it is.
beautiful. That's
Yeah.
so wonderful. We talked about anti-bullying in the beginning of the conversation, and
Oh
your
yeah,
does
yeah.
have a very, very strong theme of bullying, anti-bullying, people being bullied, the bullier. Can you?
Yes, it's almost rhyming, but yeah, that's the whole thing of being bullied and how she. Yes, yeah,
So
it
if
is
you could explain in more detail and what is the character in your book and what is the process of feeling like? I know we have this little joke between us about banishing people to the outer banks, and I love the way that
right. Yes,
like when they're not inside the ring road, we banish them to the outer banks of the road because they don't service our growth. um
right, right. They don't serve as the growth,
yeah,
but
so
the
I want to
coincidence
know about the
who we are.
character. Yeah,
Yeah.
like how does she do that? How does she figure herself out when she sometimes feels like she's been banished to the outer banks?
Oh, that's a very good question. The great part of her is that she is so caring and heart centered that she have other people who suffer who she is. So she have a guiding light throughout her journey. Who happens when you read the story? She always had that one guiding light, right? Person to able to do that. And yes, and there's always she somehow feel when you feel down about yourself, you're surrounded somehow surrounded yourself with other people. The great news about May is that she have a really loving family. That is really a blessing for her. And it's also changing, going through their wave, right, of all the anti-bullying who does not know what's going on in a different culture to make sure that she learned that, how to be accepted who she is, right? And toward the end, she learned to be brave and acknowledge that. And I know I make a joke about the outer bank, but it's really true. Once you learn how it is and be a stand for yourself, you're able to understand where your people are at that level. And then you just don't accept it and manipulate us anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you hate them, but you just had to put them out in the outer bank universe because everybody coexists. It's like the galaxy, right? Where everybody, Earth is here, and then they round around the thing. Yeah, it's an inside joke, but in some ways, it's really good because if you make a stand for any anti-bullying, people will understand, and they will also feel that what you are, and then they also carry that mantle. You know what I'm talking about? To bring forth for what it is. Yeah.
It's also teaching people about tolerance and how far people are willing to tolerate things, you know. So, and I really believe that May Rose in the book, like her tolerance becomes more of her armor, where she's,
Yes.
you know, she understands what is the bullying, what is anti-bullying, what is bullying, how, who's bullying, and you know, she kind of builds this armor around her where she learns to kind of defend herself in a kind of quiet stillness that gets her to where she needs to get to.
Right, and that's uniqueness. Some people think of physical force. For
Yeah.
her, it's more feminine, in a way that is really resilient and have a quiet way about her to say, I don't think so. But there's an inner core, like you said, a shield, because she built it up throughout the time and developed this, and where it all she have to do is speak, and then in a loving way that she
Mhm.
that doesn't affect her anymore.
And that's
And I
what
think
I love. She's a kind of character that isn't going to punch anyone in the face. She's,
no, she's not.
yeah, she's, even though she's being bullied, she doesn't go out and do the same thing. She learns an inner resilience or learns to produce an inner resilience, which is quite, you know, remarkable. And like if we could all be that way, like have that kind of, you know, strength to build ourselves from the inside out. I think, you know, a lot of children, a lot of young adults would find that they would succeed a lot faster. I mean, adults too as well.
Yes, I think it's called like a diamond in the rough, right? In
Mhm.
order to, there's an exterior, but when you get into the gem, that's what I call diamond in the rough, right? Because there's something inside is a gem that is hard as a rock and is not allowing the bullyingness anymore.
Mhm.
And you see part of her is that she learns to make sure and recognize it right away when people are being bullied, right? And then able to like stand help stand up for the person in a way that's yeah. So she kind of show people that there's a different way of just not accepting any bullying involved. And what's great about her is that she show and being a stand that for others it is not acceptable. But at the same time, you need to work on yourself. And that I think she realized toward the end of the book, the beautiful pictures that you show, that that's what she have to face, and that's who she need to become. And
Yeah.
yeah, everybody should go through that. Not go through the anti-bullying, but to go through that in a way to show people there's other way of doing things instead of hateful, negative uh, stuff that is going on that's violent.
It's wonderful. I think it's a great lesson. And what do you have planned for the future as an author?
Oh, I like to be a coach, as far as I know, and then I'm working probably in the near future, probably write another book. But right now, I'm just in the process of enjoying it and trying to promote it out there, share with people what's going on. And I think it's a good timing to do that for everybody.
And you do have an e-learning platform coming out as well, right? Which is to help people understand your coaching as well as your books in tandem together.
Right. And I think it's great because people like reading the book because you can relate to the person versus just a workbook.
Mhm.
So once they figure it out, the workbook is just a study guide that you say to figure out what it is. But yeah, I'm working on that in the process and I'm exciting.
Yes.
Um, I'm really excited when people share, and especially you going through the workbook and understanding what Mei Rose is about and what I'm trying to convey to people. And
It's a
it's
wonderful
inspiring.
story. It really is. Okay, and before we go, before we end our interview, there's two things. First is what are some words of encouragement and inspiration you can give our audience about what becoming an author and marketing your message means to you?
Wow, becoming an author, it took me 5 years to write this book. Um, the reason it's taken me 5 years was number one, you want to say that you want to write this book, right? Number two is it is a story that I'm going through as well because I have a lot of naysayers who say that I shouldn't write this book. And if I listen to them so much, I will never write the book. and I was doing it for myself. So that was inspiration. Never let anyone say that you can't do something. The great news is you find people who believe in you, and I think that's a key, like that what she was talking about, Mei Rose, and that's a great thing. What I think about the second questions, if you could repeat that question one more time, I think I need to make sure I understand answer it correctly.
I mean, I think you've answered all of it. I mean, you've told us. I mean, I think the core message is don't let anyone tell you, that you can't do something. I think that
Right.
is your biggest marketing message as well. That you went out there and you did it, and you had this burning desire to tell a story about a little girl called Mei Rose, and I think that's such a wonderful and powerful message that you're giving your audience. Never give up and don't listen to the naysayers. They don't know everything about you. So your courage is
Right.
amazing.
It is very encouraging to do that. And if you find a lot of naysayer, there's always someone yes, right?
Yes.
To and I think that's the biggest key is sometime when you're visionary, because you told me 5 years to write this. Um,
I
first is
know
to
I
knowledge
was there.
carry a message. First was to carry a message, and then you got to go through my own little thing. I mean, a lot of negativity. But then I think once you make a decision, you find out a lot of people in the realm, then you realize, and I think it's a corporations for all parties involved.
Yeah. That
My
people
message.
don't actually become or are proud of you for doing something that that you probably were talking about for 5 years. And the naysayers suddenly just kind of drip away because all the
Oh,
people.
it's funny when you said that. They do drip away. They told me, said, congratulations on the book. And they're the one who told me no. And I just look at them and, wow, I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
And
I don't think they purchased my book, but it was just acknowledgement to hear them acknowledge that I did it, like a validation. Not that I need their validation, but it was almost like putting them in the outer bank again, not to say good, and praising them and sending them love. The whole theme is to, once you love yourself more, is to send out the love. If it doesn't work out, then just simply let them blessing. And you know what I'm saying? That's why I call it the outer bank. It's
Mhm.
like a joke, but in some way it is true. You don't want them in the core. You acknowledge them, but
Yeah,
then you accept the blessing. So yeah.
amazing. And can you tell people how they can find you on your website? Because I know on your website you have a connection to Amazon where people can purchase your books and also find out about your media, which media you've been on. They'll also be able to find out about your upcoming e-learning platform. So can you tell our audience where they can find you out there on the World Wide Web?
Right now I have a website. It's called Cheryl and then hyphen moy.com. And that is my main website where you can find me. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn. So if anybody want to reach out to me.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for joining us today. And from everyone at the OAO, thank you again for allowing us to be on this journey with you. Have a wonderful day.